Cyntoia Brown-Long's case drew national attention for the circumstances of her crime. And now she has a book out about her experiences. Brown-Long was sentenced to 51 years to life in prison when she was just 16 years old.
According to her lawyers, she was being trafficked when she shot and killed a man who hired her for sex. And she became a favorite cause for celebrities, including Kim Kardashian West and Rihanna. I sat down with Brown-Long for an extensive interview, and I asked her what she would like to say to the family of the man she killed, 43-year-old Johnny Allen. I want to just touch upon briefly, there's another victim, and that's Johnny Allen. His family released a statement after your clemency, in the wake of your clemency. I'm going to read part of it. They wrote, "Our hearts are broken because we feel like Johnny never got to defend himself. We never got to be a voice for him." What's your reaction to them and to that statement?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, especially in the justice system, it's such an adversarial process that many times both the defendants and the victims' voices are left out of it. You have the state that's just preparing a case and you're trying to defend yourself against it. So I think there are many things that are left unsaid, many things that people would like to say. And if they would ever want to have a conversation, then I'm open to that. But so far, I haven't received any kind of word that they would be open to that. That would definitely be a decision that they would have to make. But I would absolutely talk with them if they'd like.
You would talk to Johnny Allen's family?
I would.
Do you feel that he's a victim as well? Is that your understanding of how they feel about the situation?
I completely understand how they feel. Like this was somebody's son. It was someone's brother. You know, I completely understand. I don't think it matters when you think about circumstances. If you lose someone, you lose someone. Like grief doesn't care about what the situation was. And so I think we have to have respect for that. Like that's their grief. We can't tell them how they're supposed to process it.
And there will be some, and you probably have heard this, that will say, look, you've not been exonerated, you've been given clemency.
Right.
What do you want them to know about you, about your life, from the moment that you shot and killed Johnny Allen to where you are today?
I mean, for me, yes, I've made mistakes. I've done something that, completely destroyed a family. And it damaged multiple people in the process, my own family as well. They've suffered as well. And we've all done things that we can regret, obviously some worse than others. But the point is that there is redemption. There is possibility that God can change you if you open your heart to allow him to. And I'm thankful that he did that with me. And it's available for anybody. I don't think anybody is beyond repair. I don't think anybody they just need to be thrown away. Like, I think that as people, we're so much more complex than just being limited to our mistakes and the bad decisions that we make.
You just mentioned about being thrown away, and in your book you write this: the overwhelming consensus among the world was something must be wrong with me. I was damaged, defective, broken beyond repair. Every mistake I'd ever made was now rolled out as more evidence that I was incorrigible, one big screw up. By the end of the trial, I felt I was basically Satan's seed. The only question was whether I would be fixed or whether there was nothing left for me but to be thrown away in prison. Satan's seed.
Oh yeah, like I can't even explain to you like the feeling when you're sitting in that courtroom and you have someone that beyond doing their job, they're just coming at you like you are the most despicable person they've ever met. And that's how I felt with the prosecutor in my case. And everything, like witness after witness is saying all these things, and everything is being interpreted in the worst possible light. And you're sitting there and you're screaming like, that's not what happened, and no, that's not what that is, and you're reading that all wrong, but you can't even say anything. Like, you just have to kind of just take it. And I mean, it's traumatic just sitting in the courtroom and hearing all that stuff. And it's difficult, and it's not great for your self-esteem whatsoever. So that is how I felt. I felt very low during that time.
And you still found it within you to comfort your mother after you were sentenced, like an adult, telling your mom, don't get upset. I don't want you to have a stroke. I don't want you to mess up at work. Where did that come from?
You know, one of my biggest regrets is the way that I'd hurt my mother. You know, she tried so hard. She tried everything that she knew to try. She even asked, you know, the professionals that had come into contact with me, the schools that had come into contact with me, what she could do. So just seeing the way that I had hurt her so much, I didn't want to hurt her anymore. And when you're doing time, your family does that time with you. And a lot of people don't see that. But your family gets treated horribly by the jail staff, the prison staff. Your family has to rearrange their life because of your absence, because they have to be present for you. And it's just difficult, and so you want to shield them from as much as you can. I can remember like really struggling like financial-wise during those early times, you know, because commissary is expensive. Mm-hmm. You know, you had to pay for your hygiene, and who wants to eat the prison food? But, you know, you don't want your family to keep coming out of their pockets. And so there was time I didn't know where my next bar of deodorant was coming from, but I didn't want to let her know that. Mm-hmm. And so there was always that protective instinct with everything.
You write a lot about her in the book. I mean, she's from the very first page, and you refer to your mother, Elinette, as mommy throughout the course of the book. And it's clear that you came from a loving home. Mm-hmm. And so anybody who's watching this or who knows your story is going to say, you know, how can somebody who had a mother and a family that cared and loved for her? There's that one moment that I'm reading where you go home and you're looking in the refrigerator for something to eat, and your mom says, have anything you want. She's just so happy that you're back home. Right. And you say to yourself that this is the moment that you can choose to stay here, stay with your mom, you know, honor your mom by being the kind of daughter that she would want you to be, and then yet you find yourself back in Nashville a couple of weeks later. Yeah, and I still, like, when I had called her from the bus station, and, but just being able to hear like how I'd hurt her in that moment, I still carry that, and I carry that all these years, you know. And it's difficult because you think if you have this good home that you come from, like how can things like this happen? But we have to be more conscious of all of the influences, you know, on children. There's school, there's neighborhood, there's what you're seeing out in the media, out in the world. And there's so much more that has an influence on you than just your parents. And so she tried, but it was hard for her to fight the battles that were going on within me that I had taken on from other places around me. It was such a really interesting interview, Anne-Marie. And one of the things that you were, as we were watching this, you talked about how just well-spoken she is just in front of the cameras. And she's always been like that from the very moment that you first, I think America was introduced to her in a documentary right after her arrest, right after her sentencing. And one of the things we talk about, which we'll show later on CBSN, is she's sitting there with lawyers, and she's looking at a notebook of all the times that she has had sex with older men. And it's a very long list. Mm-hmm. And she's reading them, and it's just like, and I said to her, you know, you were reading that list as if you were just making a grocery list. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, this man, you know, blah, 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 blah. This guy, he did it, we did it here. This guy, we did it there. These are all the times that she'd been put out for sex by her pimp, a guy named Cutthroat. Who was the person who literally would threaten her with a gun if she didn't do these things. She says that not only did she learn to distance herself from those things, they had nothing to do with sex, it had everything to do with just doing it to protect herself. She didn't realize until she was in her late 20s that she was actually a victim of sex trafficking. You know what, I think that is really, really valuable information that you gave us and the viewers right there. Two things that I was struck by, and I'd love to hear the rest of your interview, is how someone who comes from a loving home with parents, you know, a mother who cares for her could slip into this. I think that is a fear of parents, you know, all over the world. But I'm really glad that you started by talking about the man that she killed. Yeah, Johnny Allen. You know, I mean, you know, he did have a family. But when you talk about watching her go through these lists of people and how she emotionally distanced herself, you sort of see
why she could react the way that she did when you asked her
Right.
about her feelings about this man.
She,
you know?
she says, and the court records show that she believed that he was reaching for a gun, and she knew, and so the family of Johnny Allen says, well, she also robbed him after she shot him, but she also knew that she had to bring money back to Cutthroat, or he would commit violence on her.
Right.
And so that is what she claims is the reason why she took money from him. So it's a really fascinating interview. We're going to be playing it all day long on CBSN. So for more of my conversation with Cyntoia Brown-Long, make sure to tune into CBSN throughout the course of the day. And of course, please visit cbsnews.com for the full interview. We talk about a lot of things that I think are going to be really eye-opening for people who are interested in her story.